My mother-in-law celebrated her birthday while I was fighting to breathe in intensive care. 50 people ate inside my house. 3 days. 3 nights. By the time I came home, the flowers were dead, the floors were stained, and my name was attached to a $250,000 debt I never agreed to. My name is Brielle Hart, and I learned that family can smile at your table while quietly burning your life down. The hospital bracelet was still on my wrist when I opened the front door. The smell hit me first: old meat, spilled wine, perfume, smoke. My dining room looked like a hotel lobby after a riot. My husband, Nolan, stood near the kitchen island, not guilty, just annoyed. His mother, Marlene, sat in my chair wearing pearls and a silk robe I paid for. "You're home," she said, like I had interrupted dessert. I looked at the unpaid invoices stacked beside my mail. Caterers, rentals, security, imported flowers, private chefs. Then I saw my signature. Forged. My chest went cold. I looked at all of them and said, "You should have checked whose house this really was." Marlene's smile disappeared. Nobody spoke after I said those words. Nolan stared at me like I had forgotten my place. Marlene slowly stood, smoothing the wrinkles from her robe, pretending calm belonged to her. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "Families help each other." I picked up one invoice and held it in front of her. "My signature doesn't." Nolan stepped between us. "You were unconscious. Mom handled everything. We couldn't cancel her 70th birthday because you got sick." The sentence landed harder than the illness ever had. I had nearly died from a ruptured appendix and an infection that spread through my body. They called it bad timing. I walked into my office. File cabinets stood open. Drawers had been emptied. My desk was covered with guest lists, wine receipts, and photographs of smiling strangers dancing in my garden. Then I noticed my safe. The door was unlocked. Inside, my father's property papers were gone. My father built this house before he died. He left it to me alone, making me promise never to let anyone gamble it away. I understood everything. The forged signatures, the impossible debt, the birthday feast. They never wanted a celebration. They wanted the house, and they thought intensive care had already made me weak. That night I couldn't sleep because every room carried evidence of what they had done. I walked through the house with a flashlight because half the outdoor lights had been stolen after the party. In the library, I found a trash bag stuffed with empty envelopes addressed to me. Someone had opened my mail. Bank notices, tax letters, insurance warnings, a final demand from the lender handling the catering contracts. My forged signature appeared again. I heard footsteps. Nolan leaned against the doorway. "You are making this bigger than it is." I asked one question. "Who took my father's papers?" His silence answered first. Then he said they were safer with my mother. I laughed because the truth was finally ugly enough to recognize. Marlene had spent years telling everyone that I was too emotional to manage money. Now she had convinced my husband that stealing from me was protection. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a small recorder. Nolan turned pale. He remembered the conversation we had before my surgery, the one where he admitted his mother wanted the deed. He also remembered that I recorded every business meeting in my office. I pressed play. Voice spoke. Nolan's voice filled the room before he could stop it. "If Brielle doesn't make it, everything becomes easier. Mom says the house should stay with blood." The recording ended. He reached for the recorder, but I slipped it into my pocket. His face wasn't angry anymore. It was terrified. "You don't understand the conversation," he whispered. "I understand every word." Marlene rushed into the library after hearing us. Nolan looked at her the way frightened children look at their mothers. She never denied what she said. She only crossed her arms and asked, "Who will believe a woman recovering from intensive care?" That question almost broke me. Almost. Instead, I opened my father's old leather briefcase. She frowned because she thought it was empty. It wasn't. My father had spent 40 years buying and selling commercial property. He trusted almost nobody. Hidden inside were copies of every ownership document connected to this house. The original deed was still legally protected. The paper they stole was worthless. Marlene's confidence cracked. Then the front doorbell rang. A man in a dark suit asked for me by my full name. He handed me a thick envelope. Across the front were 6 words. Court notice. Petition to transfer ownership. Filed 3 days before my surgery. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Nolan already knew what was inside. He would not look at me. Marlene did. She stood perfectly still, waiting for me to surrender. The petition claimed that my illness had made me mentally unstable and incapable of managing my own property. It asked the court to place temporary control of my finances and my house into Nolan's hands. Attached to it was a medical statement. The signature belonged to a doctor I had never met. I felt sick. Not because they had betrayed me, because they had planned every step before I was admitted to the hospital. The birthday feast was never a celebration. It was proof. 50 guests. Photographs. Videos. They wanted the world to see that my husband and his mother were already running my home while I was disappearing. Nolan finally spoke. Mom said this was the safest way to protect everyone. I looked at the man I married and realized he had spent years borrowing my strength because he had none of his own. Then my phone vibrated. A message from my attorney appeared on the screen. I had hired her in secret after my father died because he trusted her completely. The message contained only one sentence. Do not let them know the judge called me this morning. I locked my phone before anyone could read the message. Marlene watched me carefully. She had the instincts of someone who survived by controlling every room she entered.
What was that? She asked.
I smiled. Spam. For the first time since I came home, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. She expected tears. She expected bargaining. She did not expect patience. I walked upstairs and opened the small closet my father used as a workshop. Behind a shelf of old paint cans was a steel box. Inside were letters he wrote before he died. One was addressed to me. The other was addressed to my attorney. He had warned us that if anyone ever tried to force me out of the house, we should immediately investigate every financial transaction connected to the property. He believed greed always left fingerprints. He was right. My attorney arrived an hour later. She spread documents across the dining table where Marlene had blown out her birthday candles. Bank transfers, wire receipts, catering contracts, private loan agreements. Every payment led to the same place. Marlene's personal account. She had borrowed money in my name and quietly moved part of it to herself. Nolan stared at the papers like he had never seen them before. Then my attorney looked directly at him. You should know, she said softly, your mother has already blamed all of this on you. Nolan looked at his mother as if he had never met her. Marlene never flinched. She simply folded her hands and said, someone has to carry the blame. My attorney slid one final document across the table. It was a sworn statement.
Signed.
Dated. Notarized. Marlene had declared that Nolan arranged the loans, forged my signature, and pressured her into cooperating because he was desperate for money. He grabbed the paper and read it twice. His lips moved, but no words came out. You promised we'd face this together, he whispered. She looked at him with complete calm. I promised to protect myself. I should have felt sorry for him. I didn't. The man who watched strangers celebrate in my house while I fought for my life had made his own choices. My attorney asked me one question. Do you want to settle quietly? I remembered waking up in intensive care with nobody holding my hand. I remembered the forged signatures, my father's stolen papers, the birthday candles, the laughter. I answered, no. The next morning, detectives arrived with financial investigators. Neighbors stood outside watching. Marlene reached for Nolan. He stepped away from her. Then one of the investigators opened a folder and asked me a question that made every person in the house turn white. Mrs. Hart, where would you like us to start digging? I looked at the investigator and pointed toward the fireplace where my father kept our family records for decades. Open that wall, I said. Behind the old shelves they found a hidden cabinet stuffed with ledgers, letters, canceled checks, and photographs my father had quietly collected. He had suspected Marlene long before I married Nolan. Every loan request, every forged document, every private meeting with bankers had been copied and dated. The investigators worked for hours while reporters gathered outside. Nolan sat alone at the kitchen table. He never asked me for forgiveness. He finally understood that love is not the same as loyalty. Marlene kept insisting she had done everything for the family. Then one detective carried out a small metal box. Inside was the money she had moved from my accounts and jewelry stolen from my grandmother. Her knees gave out. She looked at me and whispered, "Please help me." I remembered the hospital room, the empty chair beside my bed, the birthday music echoing through my house while I fought to survive. Then I answered the only way I could. Take everything back. Leave nothing for me to remember. Justice had already emptied my heart.